system. How you doing?
Getting beat up by 9 guys in Syracuse, to me, there's not a whole lot of shame in.
This is the Heel to the Face podcast with your hosts, Jared Wicks and Brandon Icebreaker Clements. Tweet us using the handle @HeelToTheFace.
Woo! 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 Woo!
The bell is rung, so let's step in the ring with your hosts, Brandon and Jared.
This is another week's edition of the Heel to the Face podcast. I'm Jared Wicks. You can find me on Twitter at KRockJared. That's Brandon Icebreaker Clements to my right. You can find him on Twitter at Icebreaker21 and the program, more importantly, at Heel to the Face. That's where you find everything you need to know about our program. Another week's edition of the program. We're now further into January, getting closer to the Royal Rumble. Some rumblings going on with All Elite Wrestling, Wrestlekingdom this past Friday. Well, this past Friday, correct?
Yeah,
about a 1 week ago.
Yeah.
Wrapping up from Tokyo. We'll talk that for a few minutes. Either way, let's get this week's edition of the show underway. So I'll start off with Wrestlekingdom this past week. Did you watch any of that?
A little bit. I watched a little bit. I couldn't watch the whole thing. Time commitments, other things going on, but I did catch a little bit of it. I didn't get to watch Omega's match. I know he was defeated. He dropped his belt.
He did.
So that kind of leads. I mean, we'll get to Kenny Omega in a little bit, but I think there's a couple tag matches. I saw Marty Scurll, who I know he's one of your guys that you like.
He was on the pre-show.
It was good though. He looked good.
Yeah.
And then I think
the Kenny Omega match, as I expected. I'm looking it up right now. I was about to say yes, 40 minutes. Kenny Omega match.
Wow.
You know, and I kind of want to talk about, you know, one thing I've noticed about, I guess, New Japan Wrestling, and maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, but one thing I noticed, I guess maybe because, and I don't watch it all the time, but like everything, wrestling is like horror movies, wrestling's like sideshow, wrestling's like circus attractions. You pay the money to get to see something. You know, when you go to the fair and you pay the nickel to go see the bearded lady, once you've seen her, you've seen her.
Yes.
And I think that way, like, watching the Kenny Omega match, so it went 40 minutes long, and they're doing all sorts of near falls, but I feel that now I've watched a lot of, let's say, Wrestlekingdom, New Japan Wrestling, I feel like it really takes away, and maybe it's just me, but I feel that, you know, there's never, like in WWE, we had that Goldberg-Brock Lesnar thing, that 20-second match a couple years ago in Toronto.
Yes.
You don't have that here. So I feel like when you have these really hyped up matches, it's like watching an NBA game. You're like, what's the point of watching the first quarter even? Nothing's going to happen here.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, if it's your team or it's somebody you like or somebody you follow, then the first quarter matters. I mean, if you're just kind of a casual NBA fan, then yeah, I mean, the first quarter...
The first half of an NBA game does not matter in my eyes. It's just like them trading baskets. One team could be up by 10 at the half, one team could be down by 10 at the half, but that really doesn't tell me who's going to win this game. If one team's winning by 15 points at the half, I'm not like, well, this is over. Not even near over. The other team's not even really in trouble, and I feel like that was like, watching this Kenny Omega match, it went 40 minutes to end Wrestlekingdom. You knew what you were going to get, so for like the first 10 minutes, I'm like, what's even the point of the near falls? I know this is going to go like another half an hour.
I mean, here's the thing. It's all for show. I mean, you know how it is. The wrestling world, the wrestling writers, the creative, they do want you to. They train you in the performance center. They want you to put in those you know close you know pinfalls, like to build it up. Like, oh man, almost got you, you know, kind of thing. And that, I mean, that's part of the build. I mean, the thing that I look at, I know the result, obviously, we're looking at it, but I didn't have a chance to watch. I watched all the way up to, I caught up to Zack Sabre. Did I say that right?
I think, yeah, it might be
They were Sabre. That's what. I'm sorry, Sabre.
Yeah.
Like, he goes by. I call him ZSJ. That's what I call him. Because that's what that's his whole moniker. I mean,
it's nice to see them. It's nice to see
good.
Taka Michinoku still doing something in this world.
Well, yeah, he was the translator for him.
Yeah.
He was like his Paul Heyman, so to speak, I guess.
But whoever thought, when you saw Taka Michinoku back in like 1999 on like Shotgun Saturday Night, who would ever thought in the year 2019
He'd still be doing something.
He'd still be
Well,
kicking
how old
around.
he is. That's as far as I watched.
45.
No, he's not. Okay, he's not that old. I mean, Chris Jericho I think's older than him. But,
Oh yeah.
But I mean, I watched the first few matches. I didn't watch the Kenny Omega match, but to me, the story of this kind of leads to what we're gonna get to in just a moment. The AEW, All Elite Wrestling. Look at the guys and look at the folks in these matches, and who lost, who dropped their belts.
Yeah.
That makes you that
Young
makes
Bucks,
you that Young Bucks dropped it. Cody,
Jericho.
Omega.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we don't know yet that Omega's going. I mean,
He's probably going somewhere though.
Here's my thing. It wouldn't surprise me one way or the other because he has a good relationship. Obviously, he's part of the Elite,
Mhm.
so he's boys with all those guys. But WWE has the Brinks truck, so to speak. If he's in it for the money, which I don't think he is, but if he's in it for the money and maybe he's going to get some creative control, he comes to WWE. But if he doesn't get what he wants, he's going over. He's going to go hang with Cody and the crew over there. To me, that is the thing to watch in sports entertainment right now. The whole wrestling world's kind of like, if you're a diehard fan like we are, I'm checking Twitter every so often. All right, what's the latest? What's going on? I mean, if I had to hedge my bets at this point, I mean, we're obviously we're recording on a Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
I think he goes to AEW. That's my inkling. Do I hope he shows up to Royal Rumble in a couple weeks? Absolutely. As a WWE fan, I'm a WWE fan through and through. I mean, that's my promotion. I roll with them, even through the good and bad times. Well, except for a little bit, I did leave for a minute, but I think he's going to AEW. That's just the indication I'm getting. Like he wants to do his own thing. And they're actually, if you read some of the articles about it, AEW is actually they're going to give him good money. It's not like AEW, I guess, is supposedly going to pay superstars almost like WWE money right now.
And Jericho recently signed with them. Some are saying it is Jericho's most lucrative deal that he's ever signed. I don't even know how that would be possible. But one of the things that led him to signing, he said in quote this week on another wrestling radio show, there's a whole backstage element that's being signed to things that you see in WWE, from talent relations to booking agents to the director of the show. As far as TV goes, I mean, that's one thing. I wouldn't have gone to Elite if there wasn't a strong TV deal on the table. No exact details, but he said there's a strong TV deal on the table, and there's a couple that I know that are on the table that are like, wow, that's what they need. Now, yes. Chris Jericho said he would go further in TV deals, definitely, trying to read in the ear what he didn't really get into any sort of, other than just saying the TV deals are being talked about.
Wasn't getting
nothing
specific.
Is set in stone.
Yeah, nothing specific.
But I mean, obviously, somebody like Chris Jericho is wise, and that's a big thing. Getting Chris Jericho is not just a big draw, but he's a smart guy.
Oh,
so
yes,
if you get someone like Chris Jericho, who has been around, it's not just essentially like you're getting a big name. You're getting somebody who has done the research, who is saying that he wouldn't be going there if it wasn't worth going to.
Well, here's the thing too with Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho also a lot of, as we all know, he's a musician. He's in Fozzy. He's the lead. He's the front man for the band Fozzy, who's doing a hell of a job. They're doing well. So I mean, plus Chris Jericho, he's one of the big names in the business, and he still performs. Here's the thing: he can take a chance like this, and it's number one, it's not going to hurt his bank account because he has enough money. Number two, if this whole thing, I hope it works out, because I think if AEW does well, it's going to push the envelope for WWE to do better stuff, I think. But if this thing falls flat, WWE will sign him back in a heartbeat. There's no doubt about that. So this is a win-win for somebody like Chris Jericho. Like, all right, maybe I'm gonna hedge my bet on some. Like, it's kind of like Amazon before online shopping, so to speak. It's like you buy stock in something that, like, all right, well, who's really gonna use the internet? Who's gonna shop online? You put your money on something like that, and who knows? This could blow up, and I'm not saying it's gonna take over WWE, but I could give it some strong competition. It could, I could see it being the second best. If things go the way it's planned, I think it could be number 2 promotion in the world.
You think so?
I do.
See,
I do. Here's the thing. New Japan, what are they going to do with this MSG thing coming up? If these guys, if they're not working something out with AEW, who are they bringing? Because if I read this correctly, they're pretty much begging Omega to come back. They obviously they're desperate.
So that'll lead us, you know what, without further ado, let's get to our Twitter question of the week that we'll talk about this right now. So our Twitter question of the week is simply this. Now, according to StubHub, what I was just reading, it was a Ring of Honor event, but regardless, it is a New Japan Wrestling event coming up at Madison Square Garden. Let's just actually see if we can get that to come up. It's not Supercard of Honor. What is it? G1 Supercard. I think it's called G1 Supercard because it's a New Japan and Ring of Honor mix. Because every year Ring of Honor does their Supercard of Honor. I went to Supercard of Honor 12 last year. This year it's Ring of Honor and New Japan Wrestling present G1 Supercard. So that's happening at Madison Square Garden the night before WrestleMania, April the 6th. And the question is simply this. If 0 of the stars who signed with All Elite Wrestling appear at G1 Supercard, that means no Cody, that means no Kenny, no Young Bucks, no Jericho, no Hangman Page. Will this event be a failure? 67% actually say it will not be a failure. But we've had some people who've chimed in who've said things like, you know, the tickets were higher than they were. Currently on StubHub, where I currently was just looking at tickets for the event, if I can bring them back up. Gotta find them here. But they were...
Were they expensive? Oh, there you go.
I mean, apparently they're below face value. I think they're still not horrible.
Prices aren't that bad.
Yeah, I thought I wonder though, like if they'll drop even farther than like.
They're going to.
Yeah.
They're going to take
about $60 to get in the door.
So whoever bought those tickets ahead of time for like face value, they're probably losing money.
Yeah.
Probably because they assumed, okay, there's going to be Kenny Omega there, there's going to be Cody Rhodes, they're going to have all these big names. Guess what? If that doesn't happen, you're in big trouble. Because this is not a Ring of Honor and New Japan Pro Wrestling and AEW. It's just the first two.
Yeah.
So.
And to be honest with you, the main event of last year's Supercard of Honor that I went to was Kenny Omega versus Cody Rhodes.
Great match.
And that's what brought me there.
Well, yeah, that was.
If that was not the main event or on the card, I would have probably saw myself at NXT that night.
Which is still not a bad ticket.
But I mean, that was really the only thing that drew me away from NXT.
Yeah, I mean that was a great match.
I'm not just saying that, but also the fact that the Young Bucks were on the card. I mean, it was not just the main event. Don't get me wrong, but it was like 4 matches. Those are. I mean, when I watch New Japan Wrestling, I will be 100% honest with you. There was 10 matches on the card, including the pre-show. The matches that I wanted to see involved Will Ospreay. The other match I wanted to see involved Cody. The other match I wanted to see involved Okada, Jericho, and Omega. Those are 6 matches. You take away the Omega, take away Jericho, you take away Cody. That's 3 matches. All of a sudden, I only want to see and then the Young Bucks. All of a sudden, from a 10-card show, I'm only interested in like 2 matches.
So you watch what? You watch what? Zack Sabre? Maybe.
Yeah. I mean,
he's a good. I'll tell you this.
If Omega, Jericho, Cody, and the Young Bucks were not on this card, I don't even know if I'm watching it.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm with you. I do like Zack Sabre though. I'm not an expert on him. I kind of started following him a little bit more. That match was pretty good. He's a technician in the ring.
And I didn't realize we talked about the same thing last week. I realized I knew who Juice Robinson was. I thought I didn't know who Juice Robinson was, but then when I saw him, I actually realized I did know who he was. But I think the point is, it's not so much. Ring of Honor last year did a big venue. What I thought was a big venue, 8,000 seats in New Orleans at the University of New Orleans Arena.
Yep.
That was a pretty big venue, but they're tackling Madison Square Garden this year.
Without
Kenny Omega, without Chris Jericho, without all these people, I definitely think they could draw a big crowd. They could go to the Hammerstein Ballroom, where the East. I mean, that's good though, right? That's.
Yeah, okay. That's not going to contend with if you're trying to.
Well, I'm not saying contend with anybody, but I'm saying if Ring of Honor said we're holding, because they did last time they were in New York City, their event in New York City was at the Hammerstein Ballroom, drew 2,000 people, and that's pretty good. And I'm not saying if New Japan Wrestling came to town that they couldn't go to the Carnesecca Arena on the campus of St. John's. They couldn't go to the Hammerstein Ballroom. They couldn't go somewhere and draw a good crowd out those people. They could, because wrestling fans are wrestling fans. But when they booked Madison Square Garden, when they booked 20,000, remember, All In, the big All In event that took everyone to being on board was 10,000 seats. They booked a 20,000 seat venue.
They better do something, or it's gonna look like crap.
I'm not saying that Okada can't draw at the Hammerstein Ballroom. I'm not saying they can't get 2,500 people. I'm not saying that they can't, draw. I said St. John's. They couldn't go out to New Jersey somewhere.
So wait, you telling me?
I'm saying they booked Madison Square Garden. When WrestleMania could have Lawrence Taylor versus the current Lawrence Taylor versus Cody Rhodes as its main event. And it could fill up the Barclays Center. Absolutely. But they couldn't fill up MetLife Stadium.
No, absolutely not.
And that's the same here for New Japan Wrestling. New Japan Wrestling can get a good crowd. I mean, when they are in Japan, they can draw 5,000 people. There's lots of places in New York City that can hold 5,000 people. And regardless of who they throw out there, they can get 5,000 people. But when they booked Madison Square Garden, they weren't saying, hey, we're going to be like the alternative WrestleMania weekend. We're going to be like a cool show. They were like, we're going to be the second highest event behind WrestleMania itself. They're expected to get more people than NXT. They're not saying, hey, we're going to be like a substitute, an alternative for NXT. We're going to be better than NXT.
Now
We're going to be better than Raw the night after WrestleMania.
Let me ask you this then. How many seats does Barclays hold for NXT?
About 15.
Here's what I would say.
They should do a swap.
Well, yeah, they should do a swap. But as it sits, Barclays, 15,000. MSG, about 20, right?
Yeah.
Barclays will sell out. NXT is going to sell out. I'm not worried about that. They're going to sell out because
it's going to sell out more so now than ever. WWE is probably loving this.
Well, here's the thing. You know what's going to be? You know what's going to be kind of a slap in the face unless they put something together quick. If they don't work with AEW and bring some of those guys over, MSG is going to look like a quarter full. It's going to look awful. Like
yeah.
If you were like, yeah, you might fill in like some of these other small arenas, but if you're taking over the granddaddy of them all, so to speak, of arenas, like one of the most iconic places for an event.
If WrestleMania was at Madison Square Garden, that would be great.
Yeah.
I don't even care. I was saying this to somebody the other day. Madison Square Garden is one of those places that if WWE wanted to hold WrestleMania every single year at a place that had a minimum of 100,000 seats, except for New York City, they would host it at Madison Square Garden. That would be acceptable because of the venue that it is.
Yes, it's a great. I mean, here's
WrestleMania only having 18,000 people. If you said WrestleMania only had 18,000 people next year, I said, oh, that's kind of a disappointment. But if you said, oh, it's MSG, I'd say, oh. I mean, that's what they're doing. WrestleMania 19 was at Safeco, and then the next year was at Madison Square Garden, and it wasn't a downgrade at all. No. It felt like next year's was even bigger.
Well, yeah.
It's like Floyd Mayweather versus Pacquiao. Yeah, if it was in front of 10,000 people in Syracuse, New York, nah, that's not that great. That's not a big deal. But if Mayweather versus Pacquiao was in 10,000 seats, but it was in Las Vegas, that's different because it's in Las Vegas.
Yes,
that's part of the whole
I'll just say this. I'll just say this. This is not going to look good if they sell a quarter of the seat, like a quarter of the place is filled. That's not going to be good.
One thing that definitely helped New Japan Wrestling, I would say, in this whole aspect, is that when this event was booked, the idea was they were going to have all these people, so they scared WWE into moving NXT to Friday night. So NXT is now going to be on Friday night WrestleMania weekend, not Saturday. And they moved the Hall of Fame to Saturday night. Now, that probably helped New Japan Wrestling because of the fact that now they don't have that competition of NXT. But if WWE would have kept NXT on Saturday night, they'd be in some real trouble now.
I still think they're in trouble because who's gonna go to this show?
Because it's still live wrestling versus not live wrestling. I think that's the thing here.
So let me ask you this then: Do you think the Hall of Fame is going to be a joke this year like it was last year?
Mike,
because last year looked awful.
I wonder who are they going to pull out? They haven't announced any names yet.
I know it's only there.
I mean, it's still early, but I mean, we're still
we're a couple months away, but they should start unveiling names. I would say the next.
I would say probably maybe the night after Royal Rumble is when they nail.
They'll start knocking. They'll announce the first one.
So,
I wonder
if they pull out The Rock.
That'll sell.
If they pull out Triple H.
Sells.
And obviously the one.
Undertaker's
going to sell.
Yeah, Undertaker, yeah. Yeah, I would say, if you know what, it wouldn't surprise me if WWE did this just to stick it to these guys.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie.
Because they really do want to stick it to them because, I mean, essentially, they made them move their event. So WWE is not in the process of wanting to work with New Japan Wrestling after they just made them move their event because New Japan Wrestling came at them.
Exactly. I wouldn't.
And then New
either.
Japan Wrestling slipped and fell on their face when they look like they're gonna lose all their guys.
Yeah. Thank you, All Elite Wrestling. Appreciate that.
So I mean, it's quite interesting to see where this is gonna go. A lot of people say it's not gonna hurt them, but I mean, it's a big deal. Like I want to say I might have been more pumped to go to the Madison Square Garden show prior to.
Everything has happened.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So, I mean, it's still hard because it's MSG.
It's wrestling.
It's It's
But yeah, but-
live wrestling in
Well,
Madison Square
You're telling
Garden.
me this. If
It's like watching it.
If Undertaker goes in, you're going to that.
Oh, I mean,
Easily.
yeah,
The Rock, same thing.
yeah.
Triple H. I mean, if WWE does it right, just to cash cow it, they do one of them the next. They do Rock one year, Triple H next, Undertaker next. Get the ultimate. That's
Well,
cash
who else?
cow right there.
I'm trying to think outside of those three guys who could even headline. Who are we currently looking at headlining right now? Goldberg's in, Sting's in, and we've already like exacerbated all the WCW guys. I feel.
Yeah, I feel like.
I mean, would Big Show main event a Hall of Fame?
No.
No,
No,
Big
he'd
Show's
be-
like a Mark Henry.
Yeah, he'd be in the middle somewhere.
Yeah,
I mean, what about any female wrestlers? I don't think.
that could headline.
No, headline just who.
I mean, Trish is already in.
Yeah, I mean, she's the only one that would. Her and Lita could maybe.
They're both already in.
I know, that's the thing. Who else is out there? I mean, you'll probably have some random tag team we haven't seen in 30 years that'll be in.
I mean, the Dudleys are in. Edge and Christian are in. Well, Edge and Christian, are they in? Edge is in.
Yeah, Edge and Christian aren't.
Well, what? Okay. So, but they wouldn't headline.
Yeah, but they'll be. No, I don't know.
No, Edge and Christian wouldn't headline because the
Yeah.
Dudleys went in last year and they didn't headline. They
Yeah,
were
but-
they were the openers.
Yeah, but I think Edge and Christian. I would argue that Edge and Christian were bigger than Dudley Boys.
Yeah, but the Four Horsemen didn't even headline.
Yeah, it's true. Forrest. I don't know. Now I gotta think.
Hogan's in.
A lot of the big names are in. Man.
Shawn Michaels is in.
Hey, let me guess. You gonna let Ric Flair be a 3-time Hall of Famer?
Well, with what? Evolution? Are you gonna put Evolution in there?
Exactly.
I mean,
Hey, you never know.
so quickly talking about Raw and SmackDown this week leading up to the Royal Rumble. So we know Becky Lynch is now going to take on Asuka, and John Cena officially announced his name for the Royal Rumble.
Okay, big what we knew that was gonna happen.
I mean, what do you see? Do you see John Cena winning the Royal Rumble?
No.
You don't see John Cena win the Rumble. What do you
No.
see them doing with him at WrestleMania then this year? They're not going to pull that same card they did last year.
No, they'll find a feud for him.
Will they?
Yeah.
It took him a long time last year, and because of the fact that he's in and out, it's hard for him to find a feud.
I think they'll find somebody. Yeah, but you know what? That'll be like the periodic stuff, like how The Rock and him did it. I know that was over a longer period of time, but every so often you cut a promo, something like, even if it's, he records it and sends it through, or it's like you can obviously tell it's pre-taped or something. You could do that, which I know is not ideal, but I don't think he wins the Rumble. We'll obviously get to that a little bit closer. We'll get to it the week of. So I don't even want to take a guess yet. I still have to figure out who's all in and the latest on Kenny Omega, because we don't even know
So
yet.
you don't see, and another,
I don't think Cena's winning.
one of the other kind of interesting notes from this week in wrestling, Shane McMahon and The Miz officially teaming up.
I don't see that.
You see that breaking right up
Yeah.
in their first match?
Yeah, I see that.
I see that at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I see a Shane McMahon heel turn at WrestleMania. I think that's where it's going.
Heel turn at WrestleMania?
Yes.
So you see Shane as a face going in to face The Miz and then turning heel at WrestleMania.
Well, I think
right now I just see the match right now.
I think they'll have it. I think they'll make it to WrestleMania, and I think Shane turns heel at WrestleMania. Like they'll do a tag match.
At WrestleMania.
Mhm.
You still think they'll be tag team? I think they're breaking up immediately.
I don't know. I think they will. I think they're gonna make it. I will say this though. Takeaways from the show. I just want to say Hulk Hogan did a great job honoring Mean Gene. That was fantastic. I thought he did a great job. They've known each other for years and years and years, so I wasn't expecting anything less. Typical Hulkamania, so to speak. Genomania was good. That was my big takeaway from the show. Bobby Lashley and Rollins brawled, turned into another match. Raw wasn't really that great. The only thing honestly that drew me in this past week was Hulk Hogan coming in to talk about Mean Gene. That was the thing that really drew me in this week, because that's something I wanted to see anyways because of the history they have. Mm-hmm. SmackDown, my biggest takeaway, I would say, is the beginning of the show. Daniel Bryan cut a nice promo. He was in the concession area, calling out the WWE Universe and cutting the promo on AJ. That was pretty much it. I mean, it wasn't a great week.
So, I'm going to pose out our Twitter question of the week right now for next week. We're gonna get a headline on it. You can vote when I put it up next week. But here's a question that I'm looking at. We were just talking a few minutes ago of big WWE guys not in the Hall of Fame. Owen Hart isn't currently alive, so whoever speaks on his behalf, it would be Bret Hart speaking on his behalf.
I wouldn't necessarily say it's gonna be Owen Hart.
Well,
for Owen Hart, I could see Natalia in there.
Okay, well, I mean, there might be a few people in there. The question is, he's not going to speak, and I think that's a big takeaway, because like the Ultimate Warrior, a big thing when he got inducted was the fact that we were going to see the Ultimate Warrior. If we were going to see Ultimate Warrior's wife speak on his behalf, I don't see that being a huge draw.
No.
Okay, because you want to see. I'm not here. I don't want to pay $50 to see someone talk about Stone Cold Steve Austin. I want to see Stone Cold Steve Austin. So the question is, Owen Hart not being alive, could that headline a Hall of Fame ceremony? Could he headline, be the main headline? I think if he was alive, well, no, I don't.
If he was alive, slam dunk.
No, actually, I take that away. If he was alive, no, because I want to say, and not to sound rude or anything like that, but I want to say that if he was alive, a big part. I mean, I would put him in the Big Show category. I think his passing has made him way more popular.
No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, growing up watching Owen Hart,
never a world champion.
Doesn't matter. Roddy Piper was never a heavyweight champion.
Well, I understand that, but I just feel that Owen Hart has a lot more.
Owen Hart was so technical. He was such
his
a technical
career
wrestler,
was definitely more amplified after the tragedy that happened in 1999.
Obviously he was getting to his prime when he passed away. So we never got to see the full prime of Owen Hart.
And that's the thing. If he stayed alive, there's a very good chance WWE could have just Dolph Zigglered him for.
I don't think so.
You don't think so? I mean,
no,
I
don't.
Owen
think Hart was good, man.
You think he was in his prime? I mean, he was going for the belt against Bret Hart in like '94. He was winning the King of the Ring.
I think he was.
When he passed away, he was like a side character, going for like the IC belt.
I still think there was a lot of good wrestling left in Owen Hart. I think there was.
Well, there definitely was. I mean, but like, look at like Big Show's a good example. Big Show in like the late '90s was up there with as big a contender. I mean, you thought when the Big Show was around in '99 that he would headline an event because he was going for the world belt. He was winning the world belt. He was feuding with Kane, Stone Cold, Kevin Nash, Goldberg. He was starring in movies. I mean, he was a huge star. And because time goes on, it just eventually like I said about the sideshow attraction, as soon as you've seen a 7-foot giant so many times, the luster goes away.
Well, there's a name on here that we're just kind of going through names. I see one guy right there. Paul Heyman.
New York City.
I think that's perfect. And here's the thing. Wrestling fans love Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman's a name that could headline the show.
Yeah.
Let's scroll up to the top a little bit more. I mean, obviously Jericho someday. I know we talked about that. I mean,
there's the top three right there. Taker, Rock, Triple H. I mean, Vince McMahon himself. I don't see a day that he's alive that he'll put himself in. I don't necessarily.
No, I don't. I think they'll do it. I think they'll do it after he's gone. I would say. But yes, I mean, Chris Jericho is a big name.
I mean, Chris Jericho could be very interesting now.
I forgot. Ivan Koloff's not in the Hall of Fame. I didn't realize that.
It'd be very interesting to put in Jericho now. I'd say that.
Well, yeah, with everything going on. With everything going on. Well, here's the thing. The name we were talking about the name that I like, obviously aside from the ones we were talking about with The Rock and Triple H. I would say this: Paul Heyman's my guy.
But the question I'll pose next week is: can and would Owen Hart headline? I mean, not be in the Hall of Fame. He's definitely deserving to be there. Absolutely. Could he headline a class, despite the fact that he won't even be there? I want to say, has there been anybody who's headlined a class that hasn't been there?
I don't think so.
Because even when Eddie Guerrero went in, he didn't. I don't want to say he headlined that class. I think Bret Hart headlined that class.
Yeah, I think so.
So, has there been anybody who wasn't actually there that had someone speak on their behalf? Because every year I go, I mean, there was somebody speaking for Rick Rude.
Yeah.
There was somebody speaking for Big Boss Man, his family. There's definitely always somebody who's passed away that is in the Hall of Fame, but they don't headline a class. Could a passed away Owen Hart headline a Hall of Fame class?
I don't think so.
Well, we'll pose that question, Twitter question of the week, and that's going to wrap up this week's edition of the show. Icebreaker21, that's where you find him on Twitter. Myself, at Jared Wicks, or at KRockJared, I'm Jared Wicks. At Heel to the Face, that's where you find the show. And Heel to the Face podcast on YouTube and all other forms of podcasts, wherever you can find us.
And Icebreaker 21.
And he promotes himself once again.
Of course. Multiple times. It's fine.
He named it twice, because it's just as nice.
That's right.
We'll see you next week to get you more ready for the Royal Rumble and answer that question. See what you say about Owen Hart in the Hall of Fame. Till then.